We're back out working on the Quonset Hut, and we're not starting off things too good today, I don't think. So we got a ton of rain the past couple days, and it like kind of filled up our Keyway, which is right down here, just in the center. Actually, it's kind of evaporating. It's a hot day. So we got like, I don't know, a ½ inch of water in it, and that's kind of not good because we're gonna be drilling holes in there, and we're gonna be bolting the Quonset Hut down to the slab today. We're gonna be using the metal brackets that the kit came with, some washers, and then we're gonna be using some anchoring bolts called redheads, and then I've got a hammer drill with a masonry bit we're gonna use to drill our holes. I've already got 2 done over here. So these are kind of my tests to see if we're gonna be able to do this with a bunch of water on the ground, and I think it's gonna work. So the bracket bolts to the Quonset Hut, we're gonna do 2 brackets per arch, and then we're gonna do these anchors. I think these are 3½ inch redhead anchors. They look like that. The first thing we're gonna do is we gotta go bolt all these on. So we're doing 2 per arch. We have 32 arches. So we're doing 124 of these. We're gonna bolt them on.
Bolts and everything, because if we're short on those, we're probably short on something else. All right, quick inventory check. We are short on just a handful of these, unfortunately, so Eric had to call the company, and I think we're short on something else, which is a bummer. Hopefully we can get that here in time, because we're kind of getting down to the wire. We definitely need to bolt this down and start working on the grouting process and get it kind of finished up before winter starts to come around here.
The next edge and then the center. So here we go. This is called a hammer drill. Not the hammer in a drill, but just a hammer drill. And this is a masonry bit, and there's 2 different settings on here. There's regular drilling, which just spins it. There's hammer drilling, which spins it and also goes in and out really fast, so it hammers in to the concrete. And this is my little gauge. I can set it how deep I want to go. These are 3 or 3½ inch. And through my testing, I'll say right now, this is my first time using one of these, but I did it the other day. You're supposed to drill these in, and then you want to get out like the dust and stuff, and then you want to pound this bolt in. The problem is we have a lot of water, so we're not able to do that. But what I did is I drilled in about 4 inches, and these pounded in just fine. So I've got this little gauge set about 4 inches. That'll tell me when to stop my drilling. And then Arielle, she's gonna come along, she's gonna pound these in, and she's gonna tighten this bolt on top. And what that does is it pulls through this little part on the bottom, which is a little thicker, and it kind of mushrooms out this. It's almost similar to like a drywall screw, but we're putting it in concrete, and they anchor down very well. We're gonna start on that corner one because it's exactly where it needs to be, and then we're gonna have to shift a couple around. Some of the ribs are spread out a little bit, and then we should just be able to start drilling all these in. Hopefully it don't take us too long today. Dang it, forgot to put the washer in. Nice. is this project, or this part of the project, it wasn't going good to start with. It's really tight in there, and this hammer drill, you would think that like, since it hammers and everything, it's just super easy and you just drill. No. So I'm leaning on this thing, I'm using my foot, I'm going through bits. I think I went through 2 bits. I bought 3 for the project, which isn't gonna be enough, and unfortunately, the Craftsman, she's dead, so it doesn't work anymore. We almost got done with one side, which is pretty good. It took us a few hours. Like I said, it's hard work. It was doing fine in the water. The redhead bolts, they're going in. It's anchoring it down really well, but we're out of commission. And tomorrow is when we have our rental reserved for a floor grinder. So we're gonna grind down the floor and make this look nice in here. So we're gonna go with that tomorrow, and we'll go to Fairbanks, and hopefully we can pick up a new drill somewhere, maybe something a little bigger and more powerful than this Craftsman one, because it was having trouble all the way from the beginning. And then it looks like we're gonna have to grab a couple more bits, but at least we know what we're doing now. It's coming along out here. Well, we're back at it again, and I'm not gonna lie, things weren't going good. We ran into a few problems, 3 of them. The first one was we were drilling those bolts into the concrete to bolt this thing down. The drill blew up and we were about halfway done. Issue number 2 was we realized as we were bolting this thing down, the brackets, we were short about 10 brackets, so that's problem 2. And problem number 3, we drove up to Fairbanks to pick up our concrete grinder rental. There was a miscommunication. We got up there and they wouldn't let me rent it because we were gonna be powering it with a generator, so we weren't able to pick up the concrete grinder. But it has been about 2 weeks. Things have completely turned around for us. We're back out here, we're ready to go. We picked up a new drill, which is a rotary hammer drill to drill our holes. We're gonna be talking about that a little bit later. Steelmaster, who's the company we bought this building from, they like overnighted the parts up to us, so we're gonna go pick those up as soon as we can get out of here and go get them. And we went down to Willow to work on our other property, and Anchorage had a rental that would run off of a generator, and that's this bad boy right here. So this is the same machine we were gonna rent up in Fairbanks, except for this one's a little bit smaller. It's got 1 disc on it. The one we were gonna rent basically was twice as wide on the front. It had 2 discs. That one, they wouldn't rent it to us because it had a 3-phase motor and they didn't want us to run it off a generator. This one is a lot smaller of a motor. It's a single-phase motor. It works off our generator. I've already done a couple little test spots. I'm pretty excited to use this thing. It's been a little over a month since we did this slab, and this machine right here is gonna give us the finish that we want. For a bunch of amateurs, us and our friends pouring a slab, we did an awesome job, but let me show you some of the imperfections that we're trying to fix. We'll just start with the worst. That is the worst right there. So there's like a seam almost right here. And I think this section, I was maybe troweling it a little bit too early and I brought up a lot of the cream. So this isn't actually like really hard concrete. It's just the cream that has dried and it chips off really easily. And it's kind of like a little channel, I guess, here in the center. And that's because when I was going from that side or that side and I was troweling it, it kind of just met in the middle. I couldn't really do anything about it. I let it dry. But I hit right here with that grinder, just one little pass, and this right here looked like that. So that grinder is gonna do an excellent job for us. There's other things going on in here too. There's random trowel marks that aren't absolutely perfect. There's maybe some marks from the rain or when we had the tarp laying on here, but we're doing almost 2,400 square feet this shop is. So we're gonna grind the whole entire thing down, get it nice and smooth. Let's go check out the grinder we're gonna be using. Pop them off like that. Well, this thing is called an 𝐒𝐢𝐬𝐻, and I think it's called a floor grinder. This is the Magna Trap. This is the one we rented, and there's different bits, they call them. So this is a medium one. This is their 30 grit, I believe it is, and I think these are like diamond bits. The guy at the rental store said that 1 set of bits should do this whole entire thing, but I picked up a few extra ones that they had that we can return if we don't use. The way this thing works is pretty simple. This thing just spins around and a circle and it just grinds down your concrete for you. It can take down a lot of concrete with the right bits, and it can also just take down a tiny bit if you're like needing to take glue off a concrete floor or remove a stain, or you just want to prep it for a new stain. We're not really trying to remove that much concrete. The way these bits work are pretty cool though. It's actually magnetic. So you stick it on there and you slide it into place And that's pretty much it. We're gonna flip it up. I have used it yesterday just for a couple seconds, and the dust that this thing puts off is just crazy. We are gonna wear face mask, glasses. One thing with this machine though is you can hook up a garden hose to it, and you can do like a wet grind, and that'll really cut down on the dust. And then you could just clean it with a pressure washer or a hose when you're done. But the reason we don't want to do that is we're going to grout in our keyways right here. And if you can see in there, they're actually a little wet right now from the rain. And we're trying to dry that up before we put that in there. So we don't want to add any water, but what I'm going to try to do is hook our vacuum up to this thing. And it looks like what someone did who ran this before me. There's a little duct tape on there. So I'm going to stick our vacuum right here. That's what this little port is meant for. I'm going to use some tape, and we're going to tape it on. So when this thing is running, we're going to run it off of our big generator. It's our Kohler, and then the vacuum will have to run off the little Honda. So we'll have 2 generators running, and I don't know. I think we'll start in the far corner over there. We'll work our way back and see how this goes.
Okay, I'm really excited to get this thing going. We have, like Eric said, been waiting around a while for a grinder. It was really hard to locate one in the whole state of Alaska. I don't know why that was the case, but I'm happy we have one here now, and we're gonna take care of this. And when you grind them, you do, basically, you kind of like open up the concrete pores a little bit more, so you'll get like some exposed aggregate. Both of us are going to be okay with the way that looks. I think it looks pretty neat. In fact, I just love concrete anyway, any shape, any finish. So we are going to be putting a sealer on after the fact once it's all cleaned, and that's going to like penetrate and seal it. The other option would be just to leave it as is, which really probably wouldn't have been a problem. We've been working on this concrete pad for weeks now, and not once have we actually noticed the imperfections. It's definitely probably more cosmetic than anything, but I think it'll be really nice once Eric has some little rolly tables or something in there if he needs to roll those around. So we're gonna get this thing fired up and see how it goes.
Worst parts of this project. I wish we had a leaf blower.
A leaf blower?
Yeah, if we had a leaf blower, you could just...
Well, dang it. That is a lot of concrete dust or powder, and I think that we actually have a lot of cream on top. Eric came up with the bright idea to use a dustpan, and then he went and got our push broom, so we're gonna see if that works a little better. The grinder's working awesome. It's already like a 75 to 80% improval, I would say. It looks really good. You know, it's not able to get indents that we have, so there are some still like slight imperfections, but overall I think it looks really good. And I'm sure you could go over it multiple times, but it's pretty time consuming, so I'm pretty sure we're just gonna hit everything once, and maybe if there's something really rough, go back to that. On the bright side, it's not really leaving that many scratch marks, so there's just a few, and you really have to like kind of squint to see them. Overall, I think it looks really awesome. It's just gonna take us pretty much the whole day. Like over 6 hours, I'm pretty sure.
All day event here, so I'm gonna say first off, the grinder did an amazing job. I just pretty much wanted like those big chunks I was showing you earlier gone, but it did like a better job than that. I'm really impressed with it. It is extremely hard work. I use my hands all the time, and I'm pretty sure that thing is like giving me blisters. So I'm gonna have to recover from that. And it's heavy, it's loud. We did use the vacuum for about half of it, but the vacuum like kept clogging the filter, and then it would just be extremely loud. So I unhooked it for the second half. It is amazing how much powder or dust that accumulated. Let me show you the trash can over here. This is a 35-gallon can. It's a little under half full, so I don't know, maybe like 15 gallons in there, but it is like, where's the handle on this thing? It's so heavy, I guess because it's concrete, it feels like concrete. Arielle just hopped on the little concrete grinder for about another, I don't know, half an hour or so, and we had a little bit of a high spot going into the drain, and she really grinded it down. You can actually see the aggregate or the rock. So those are actual rocks in the concrete, and that concrete grinder like grinded rock. But most of it, parts that we didn't have to grind down too much, just looks like regular concrete, so you can't really see anything. But I mean, no like visible scratches or anything. I think the 30 grit was absolutely perfect for us, and we were trying to avoid putting water in this thing because we're gonna grout in those keyways here pretty soon. We want it to dry up, but there's just so much dust, and we want to clean this thing. We want to put our sealer on. So I got the pressure washer out. We are going to pressure wash this. I think Arielle's going to do it, and we're going to try to do like a really good job, get it really clean. And then if water does get in the keyways, which it's going to, we're going to try to like blast out as much as we can with the pressure washer, and then give it like a day or so to dry. And maybe we'll have to use like rags or something to dry it out. I'm not too sure, but success today. It's looking good in here.
It's been 2 days since we used the concrete grinder on this pad, which seems like the never-ending project. We woke up to some really nice weather today, so we are hoping to get the grout done, and we're actually gonna have this building like fixated to the pad. After we used the grinder the first time, we did opt to use it the next day after we cleaned it, which meant we had to clean it again, but I just wanted a little bit more of a smooth finish. It only used one bit that whole time, so we didn't even go through that full bit to do this floor. But the second time around really wasn't that easy because our generator is a little bit underpowered for that machine, and we also were hitting concrete this time, so it was a lot harder to grind down. I went ahead and sprayed it off again, but this time I didn't push all the water towards the keyways. I actually used our drain, and it does drain pretty well into that opening that we have there. When Eric returned the rental yesterday, he also picked me up these spiffy knee pads. And it wasn't supposed to rain, but it rained all day yesterday, which meant that our keyways filled up with water again. So we are gonna have to vacuum them out. But Eric came up with this awesome idea to use a vacuum to clean them. So we had already used the vacuum and we cleaned all of the keyways out in between each little indent. And it works so awesome. It's a cheap vacuum that we've had for a really long time, and I feel like it saved the day. So we've got to do that again today before we get started. And then there's something pretty neat that Eric wanted to show you.
We're gonna start with one side today. So we've got the water out of this keyway. It is extremely clean because we cleaned it, it rained, and we cleaned it out again. And I mentioned earlier that we got a new drill, and we did. And this thing is just an absolute beast. So I feel like I got a really good value for what you get with this tool. This was actually on sale at Lowe's, and this is a rotary hammer drill. It's got 3 different settings. It does drill like a normal drill. It does hammer drill, so the bit spins and it moves in and out, and then it does just hammer, so it just moves it in and out. You can get different attachments for this thing. It's a very versatile tool, and this has just made the rest of bolting this thing down like pleasurable. So we did that side. It was a pain. We broke the drill. That side's done. This one just has 2 left, and I saved 2 because I wanted to show you guys, and I'm gonna let this drill just speak for itself. Let's put these last 2 in. I did both of those one-handed. You don't have to put any pressure on this drill. That last one with the old drill, I was literally standing on it. So this one, it does a hole in 8 seconds. And this is the original bit I'm still using, so it didn't go through any bits. Let's get the rest of these 2 in. We're gonna do it like we did the other ones. We're gonna do a washer. We're gonna do an anchor bolt. We're gonna hit it with the impact wrench, and then we'll move on to mixing our grout.
2 parts sand, 1 part Portland cement.
Yes. 1 bag of sand.
2.5 to.
We gotta mix it pretty thick. Watch your hair, baby.
Whoa!
I would be extremely careful on
I
it.
could go into it.
Suck your head right to the bottom.
Like someone one day went down because of the cold.
Okay. Yeah, we got some water in there now. Like all mixed up. Here we go, another first for us today. We picked up the cement mixer a while ago, and you can get one at Lowe's or you can get one at Home Depot. I got the one at Lowe's because it holds more. I think it holds like 4 cubic feet or something like that. So in here right now we have 2 60-pound bags of sand and about a half a bag of the Portland cement. The Portland cement comes in 94-pound bags. We're going for a ratio of 2.5 parts sand to 1 part Portland cement. So the difference between this and concrete is concrete also has rock in it. This building does not call to add the rock into it. It's called grouting it. So this is our grout, and I first mixed it way too thin, but the mixture I got going right now, it looks pretty good. I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it in a wheelbarrow. I'm gonna wheel it in. I'm gonna shovel it in the Keyway for Arielle, and she's gonna hit it with the magnesium float and maybe the trowel, and I don't really know. So let's see how this goes. Do you think that looks good? It looks pretty good to me. Maybe tip your end up a little, your back end.
Oh, like that? Okay.
I wonder if I turn it on, if that'll help it come out.
Sure, that's the perfect.
Does that work?
Yeah, it works.
Did I get it all out?
Almost, yeah.
Is that enough?
Got it out, yeah. No, this is perfect consistency.
There's no perfect way to do it. The inside just needs to kind of be flat.
I mean, if you can get it semi like this, you know. It's like straight up the funnest part of this freaking project so far. Isn't it? Can you have a career working with mud?
So far so good with that mixer. I'm learning that you don't want to over water it. Pretty much every batch I've done, and I've done 3, I've put a little too much water in there. We're trying to keep this kind of dry. We don't want it real soupy, like really spreading out in there, especially on the other side, because the other side we're actually going to slope it down away from the building. Arielle's doing an awesome job in here. I honestly can't believe how good this looks. It's turned out great, and we're not going through that much of our supplies, so I think we'll do all right on this one.
Well, this is just too much dang fun. I feel like I'm undeserving of having this much fun. Eric's out there doing all the hard work, and I found that leaving the grout, I'm kind of like leaving it bulging a little bit, so a little bit higher. I had a feeling that it would shrink, and it is. You can tell back where I started that it's shrunk down a little bit, so it looks like it's a good idea to leave it a little bit higher like this. I'm having a blast out here. I feel like this is very therapeutic. The best way I could describe it is if you're like a kid and you ever played in a mud bath, not at a spa, but in the nature where you cover yourself in mud. So that's kind of what I'm channeling right now, and it's really fun.
No, 8 times 1, 2, 3.
24.
So 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Well, we have completed a quarter of the project. So we got the inside of the one trough done, and it looks like we definitely have enough sand, and it looks like we should have just enough of the Portland cement. We won't know until we get this outside trough done, and we're gonna work on that next. But I've learned a couple things, and I found a better way to mix it, or a better order to mix up this grout we're doing. So let me show you over on the mixer. So I pretty much let this thing run the whole entire time, and when I'm done with one load, I'll spray a bunch of water in there to kind of clean it out, and then it gives us water for the next run. That's the water that's in there right now, so it's kind of dirty. So now what I'm doing is I'm adding our Portland cement first. So this is 5 gallons worth. So I'm gonna get this really liquidy. What was happening when I was adding the sand and then the Portland cement, I felt like you were getting a lot of stickage on the bottom. So after it mixed for a long time and I dumped in the wheelbarrow, there'd always be like a little bit of sand on the bottom that wasn't getting mixed up. This way is working a lot better. Let's add some more water. Okay, so there's one of our bags of sand. We're gonna add 2 total, but we're gonna let this one mix for a little while, and it should still be pretty liquidy. And then once we add that other one, we can add more water if we need, and we'll get a nice grout. So I dug out a little ditch for the wheelbarrow to kind of lower it. That way this dumps right in there. And as this is mixing up, you can see that it's more turning to like sand, so we need to add some more water. You gotta be really careful adding the water. There is like a super fine line on being too dry and being too wet. So we're trying to get it right in the middle. So I'm just adding a little bit of water at a time, and I let this mix for a while, at least a couple minutes. And that way when I pour it out, it's like completely mixed. We don't have to mix it by shovel or anything like that. So that one's done, that one's ready for Arielle over there. And then what I do, since you have like a bunch of clumps and stuff going on here, I just put a ton of water in this thing, and then by the time I shovel that into the Keyway, I come back, this thing's clean and ready to go again.
Well, it looks good, and at least we'll have a little bit of now. Okay, let's give you a look at how it's turning out. This side definitely took about 6 times as long. So there's just a lot more like shaping to do with having to slope it, and we want to do a really good job because this is going to be visible. I guess the inside will be partially visible too, but this one we want it to look very nice. So we're letting some of the bleed water evaporate now. Eric's got a really good mix down, but these ones have a little bit of bleed water, so I'm letting it evaporate before I shape it, because otherwise the water will just kind of run down that slope and it'll get rid of the edge. This is the nice part here. I don't know if it's about 10 arches or so. You can see that it's really like settled and has started to harden, especially this part that we did probably several hours ago. Check it out though. Look at this. Pretty decent, eh?
Yeah, it looks like glass.
It's beautiful. These ones are almost completely dry at the beginning. I'm not sure what time it is, but it's got to be getting pretty late. This took longer. Like I said, it took a lot longer, but the goal was to get one whole side done, so we're pretty excited about that. And Eric did some math and counts, and it looks like we are going to be short some sand, so I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure if we're going to have to go make a long trip to get more, or if we can get it somewhere near to us. Still got a little bit of work to do tonight. I'm going to let that bleed water evaporate and then shape this up, and we'll see when we're back out here working on the other side.
Yeah, I got some extra. I tried to dump half a load in here, and it just went, so. Oh!
What is that?
I forgot to put my phone piece over there.
Woohoo! We finished! Just in time too, because there's a storm coming in and it's going to be raining tomorrow morning, or in the middle of the night, I think.
Just in the nick of time.
Just in time to get my new knees, you know what I mean? I signed up already before this project, so they're ready for me.
You need help up, or are you just staying down?
No, I do need help. I need so much help.
I can
when
barely help,
When you went to grab
so.
me, I was like,
Ready?
let's do this.
Well, that was exhausting. I wasn't expecting that to be that hard. The first day, I think, went a lot better. We were tired at the end of the day, but today, I don't know what it was. Arielle and I just both weren't feeling it this morning. We were both already tired before we even started. And yesterday, we did have to end up driving to Fairbanks to get more sand. I was short 15 bags. We couldn't get it anywhere closer. So we drove up there, we got it. In total, we used 21 bags of the Portland cement. Those are 94-pound bags. And then we used 95 60-pound bags of sand. So it was like 7,000 pounds of grout we had to do in this thing. And that little mixer, it's a champion, but I tell you, it is hard mixing this much cement by hand. On this side over here that we finished the other day, it wasn't that bad as far as how much time we had to work with this stuff. It was cooler out, we were in the shade. So this side went pretty good. The other side, which we did today, the temperature changed. So it was about 80 degrees today and we were in the direct sun. So Arielle was really having to hurry when she was troweling and finish that whole side. I went around and marked with a Sharpie 1 inch above the grade. So like right here, I went in and I put a black line with a Sharpie, and that kind of gives us our slope. So when rain falls on the Quonset Hut and it comes running down here, hits the grout, it's gonna kind of shed down in there. And then in the manual for the Steelmaster buildings, they do say that you can run like some silicone or some sort of caulking around there. So we might do that in the future. The plan is to seal all the concrete. We're gonna do the outside here, we're gonna do the inside, but we're gonna wait a day or two for everything to kind of dry up. And we'll see you guys then. And I think we're also gonna work on the drain inside.
It is no joke sweeping up a shop to this size. It's about 2,400 square feet, Eric says. We have had to sweep, we've had to spray multiple times off in here, and I'm so excited to be sealing it in. We were just doing some grinding and smoothing work around the drain since it wasn't that smooth. And I was so stoked that we have the keyways done because it rained yesterday and they're not full of water. So once this is swept up, I think we're gonna be moving on to the drain.
See if she fits. Hopefully. Looks good, huh? Nice look. Okay, that's great. We got the floor grate in, and this grate is, I think, 1.25 inches tall. This is the one they had at the metal shop. I got this one discounted because it had a damaged piece on it. And the angle iron we used for the drain is 2 inch. So the drain's sitting a little bit deep in there right now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull it back out and we're gonna measure exactly how high we need to bring it up, and we'll make some sort of spacers for this out of some metal, and we'll stick it back in and we'll have a nice flush grate.
Great.
Yeah, looks good. Let's move on.
We've come a long way in this project, and we're finally going to seal the concrete pad. And the reason we're going to be sealing it is this is going to be a workshop. So we're going to have vehicles in here that might have a little bit of oil coming off them. I might change oil in my truck and spill it. We can have water, fish processing, whatever. And we don't want all that to absorb into this porous concrete. So we picked this up at the Fairbanks concrete store, and it's a really cool penetrating sealer. You can put this on green concrete. You can also put it on fully cured concrete. It doesn't need to be applied very often. It's very low maintenance. It's not going to change the look of the concrete, so it's pretty much going to look exactly how it is once it dries. We are going to be putting it on with a little pump sprayer. This is a 2-gallon sprayer. These 5-gallon jugs, they say they do 1,000 square feet. We're doing almost 2,400 square feet, so we have 3 of these. Let's get it filled up and let's see what happens. Be the easiest part of the project, I'm hoping.
Well, it's gonna take time, but.
So far so good. This is probably the easiest part of the project and the most rewarding. It looks really good in there. It's absorbing in there nicely. We've used almost, or just about 10 gallons. So we have 15 to go, and I've done 2 complete layers on the inside, and I gotta get the other trough on the outside, and we're just gonna keep going. I think I'm gonna load Arielle up with that last little bit, and she's just gonna go around, hit everything with a light coat until we run out.
Well, that about does it. That is going to be a wrap for us on this project for the season. Eric still has to caulk the relief joints, but I think after that point, we're not really going to do anything more on it during the winter, of course. I wanted to make a point to show this area that I'm sitting next to. This is the spot that we had the folks that helped us leave their little initials or impressions or whatever they wanted to. And at the time, neither of us were really thinking straight because we did actually have to cover this area with the grout. So we made a special accommodation to kind of leave it open. We sprayed it really well, so it should still drain just fine, but I didn't want to cover up these marks. They're really neat and they're pretty important to us. When we poured our other pad earlier this season, we didn't leave any impressions like that. So I'm glad that we got something on the concrete in this one. I think that overall, Eric and I are just very happy that this got done and very grateful for the friends who helped us out. And this is just like a massive, massive undertaking for us this summer. And it's really neat to see it all be completed pretty much now. Perhaps the concrete on the inside is not necessarily perfect with some of the marks, but I was telling Eric, I actually think it's kind of funny because that day we all worked so hard and I feel like each mark I can kind of just, there's a story behind it. So I feel like the marks are meaningful in that way, and maybe it's not perfect, but dang it, it looks good. And we're really stoked. I'm really stoked that we got to this point. We're done for the day. The concrete is sealed, the grout is protected, and we're gonna do some cleanup around here.